Better You. I'm your host, Fernanda Ramirez, and I'm so happy to have you here. It has been some time since I've spoken to you guys, and I'm so excited to be coming back with today's episode because so much has happened, and not only do I have a lot of updates to talk about, but I'm excited to just come back with an episode that I feel like is very aligned with what I've been trying to embody the past few months, and that is on being more present. We're going to learn how to actually be present in the moment, the art of living fully, and we're going to talk about experiencing all that you can around you as much as you can so that all experiences feel a little bit more rich, which I feel like is super important going into summer because what is the point of actually any experience if we are not fully processing it and being present and embracing connection and embracing our environment? We are going to talk about mindfulness and taking a little bit of a break from our phones because I feel like that has been a big topic recently. I've been seeing a whole lot of videos on trying to be off our phones for a week or 24 hours or just a certain amount of time, and they're always getting so many views because I think as a collective we're all getting a little bit tired of being glued to our phones and just living for the algorithm and for the people that are watching us online, or even just trying to connect online and not in person. Before we dive into today's episode, if you haven't already subscribed to the YouTube channel at A Better You, make sure you do that. Make sure you're also following on Apple and Spotify and you are subscribed. You've got post notifications turned on so you do not miss an episode. Give it a rate, maybe a review, whatever it is, leave a comment because I love reading what you guys have to say. I love reading any of your feedbacks or any of your commentary. Now, before I get into today's episode, I'm going to do a little bit of a chat of my own. In May and June, I traveled to Hawaii, Miami, and I just came back from Toronto. I honestly don't remember if I did a little bit of a reflection on my Hawaii trip on any of the past few episodes that just happened. I might have, I'm not too sure, but the reason why I went to Hawaii was, for one, I went on a Modeliste brand trip. They're a magazine, and we basically shot for this magazine, and it was so exciting because it was like with a group of women. It's a woman-founded magazine, and then I ended up extending my trip for a little bit of a solo trip in Oahu, which the first few days with the magazine was in Maui. That was a wonderful experience, and then I ended up going to Miami for Miami Swim Week. That was really fun. I was basically just there for like 5 days, and there was a bunch of different swim week events, as well as a lot of parties that happened. I feel like the fact that I've never been to Miami was just a recipe for like, I have to go out. I have to go to all the places that everyone goes to. It would almost be a crime if I didn't experience my first Miami trip as like an Alex Earl type of trip. Like I went there to have a good time, and that I did. And then I went to Toronto recently for a little bit of a business opportunity. I'm very excited, which I feel like I should start. Okay, let me just say, this is a side note, but I'm coming out with a product and I'm releasing a product for this podcast, and I want to build this podcast into more of a brand and to more of a community, and I have a whole bunch of plans and ideas in my head. And as somebody who has obviously done social media and in a way marketing for the past few years, I feel like I know exactly how I want to roll it out and show it to you guys, but I'm a little bit torn because I've obviously never released a product before. So it's like, do I talk about it and build the hype up now, or do I keep it a mystery and a secret and a surprise and then reveal it once it's ready? I am unsure of that yet, but I will say I am coming out with a product, and it should launch, I think, at the beginning of August, which I'm so excited about because this has been in the works for, I swear, like 2 years now. Like actually, it's just been way too long. But anyways, I went to Toronto to go see the manufacturing facility and the production facility, I think is what it's called, and just, do some stuff in real life and shoot content in real life and shoot video in real life so that when that product does come out, I have a lot of behind the scenes to show you guys. And so I can just take you along the experience of what it's been like to build this product and everything that goes into it. So I'm so excited, but that was my Toronto trip. It was super fun. I'd also never been to Toronto, so it was like a 24-hour Toronto trip, and I did the most that I could in those 24 hours, but I definitely need to go back. If you guys are from Toronto, let me know because I am planning on doing a little like event there, I think in the fall, which will be so exciting. So I want to see my Toronto girls and like start building that community up there too. But yeah, other than that, I mean, Miami was phenomenal. It was so much fun. I went to a bunch of different swim week runway shows, and I went out a lot. Guys, I went to the Club 11 for the first time, and I went like 3 days in a row. It was too silly, I'll say that. But yeah, other than that, spring is coming to an end. We are beginning into summer. What has my summer been all about so far? It has been about trying new locations like new little wine bars and restaurants, going to the park, getting my tan on, embracing the sunlight. I know that I always talk about how tanning is bad for you, but like low-key, I've been loving getting a tan on. I've been seeing my friends a lot. A lot of my friends are graduating, which is such a crazy experience, but it's been so fun to celebrate them and just be so proud of them because graduating is not an easy task. And yeah, I guess what I want to say is that throughout all of these experiences, I feel like something that I have taken with me into these trips recently that maybe I didn't do in past trips or in past years was honestly being fully present in them. I truly do feel like over the past few weeks, I have been living with so much excitement and so many opportunities have been coming my way and so many events and parties and this and that and connections and honestly meeting so many new people that I feel like I have put an emphasis on being present with these people and asking as many questions as I can, really getting off my phone, really just being with the person, not just listening to them for my own reply, but listening to them to really extract like what they are saying to me and just being really with the person. I feel like it has made my experiences a lot more rich. I feel like it has made the conversations more rich. I feel like it has allowed me to be a better safe place for other people to talk to and to have conversations with and for them to open up to me and for also me to open up to them. I feel like the bonds get deeper and in a much faster way, which to me is always, I feel like a blessing because I feel like everyone deserves that. So yeah, what I'm trying to say is I feel like being present and focusing on presence has allowed me to extract lessons and wisdoms from these conversations and experiences and then be able to integrate them into my life so that I become a more whole person. Like, guys, I'm going into a whole tangent here, but you understand what I'm trying to say. Presence has really changed the game for me, and I feel like I can show up better for other people and not just for myself. I also feel like something that I've been thinking about a lot, which is literally me talking about thinking, but is the fact that a lot of the time we live in our minds and we live in our head and we overthink situations, we overanalyze situations, we think about what our next move is, we think about what that person just said to us and what that means, and sometimes we're just living in our heads. And I feel like over the past few months and over the past few weeks, I've really been trying to just be in my body and be present so that I'm not just like in my head the whole time while these things are happening. And then after the experience happens, then going to my head and thinking and processing and like reflecting on what just happened, but being in my body and just observing the experience for what it is. Anyways, I feel like I've been chatting for a little while here, kind of giving an introduction on why I decided to talk about this topic, why it has been helpful for me, and my own, I guess, past reflections over the past few weeks and talking about how many things have been going on, which is why I've been trying to be present. But let's get into what I actually want to talk about in today's episode. And if you're watching the video podcast, you will see here that I'm holding up my journal and I wrote down how I've been more present in 2025. And I wrote down 12 different ways on how I've been able to do that, as well as some book recommendations and some little mantras to give you guys. So let's get right on into it. I wrote down, hang out with people who also value presence. They give you their full attention and they're off their phones. They prioritize talking, activities, and connection versus just passively hanging out. This has been, I think, the biggest catalyst for me to become a more present person. I feel like in previous years or in previous times, when I would hang around a lot of people who would be on their phones at all times, it was easy for me to go on my phone or for me to kind of clock out or not pay so close attention to the experience or the conversation because like we're both a little bit distracted, or you just don't see anything wrong with your distracted nature because you see someone else doing it. But in previous times, when I hang out with people that are fully present with me and they don't have their phone always out and they're actually listening to what I'm saying and they're remembering what I'm saying, I'm like, oh damn, wait, I should probably get off my phone and I should probably listen deeper and I should probably remember what's going on and I should really be here. And I genuinely feel like now that I have become more conscious of that dynamic, or I've become more conscious about being a present person, I bring that energy to new dynamics. And I can tell when there's people who have been on their phones or people who are usually more distracted, when they are met with presence, they kind of put their own down, distractions away, and also sit in that presence with me. So that is how I'm saying I feel like it's really important to be surrounded by these types of people. And then when you become this type of person, to bring that energy wherever you go so that you can be that person for other people. And I also think that when you are emitting that type of frequency or that kind of energy or that kind of vibe, you kind of attract people that are also like you. So you will be surrounded by other people who also value presence. I also will say, ever since I started noticing presence, and honestly how rare it is sometimes, because I feel like sometimes I'm talking to people and you can tell they're thinking about a bunch of different things. And I'm over here like snapping my fingers like, are you even listening to me? I feel like it has made me have so much more of an appreciation for presence in others, because I'm like, wait, this is like low-key kind of rare. Like not everybody is so here and with you, especially in this new age of social media and technology when everyone is just so overstimulated and thinking about what is next. I also said here how I've been more present is by prioritizing like talking and conversations and activity and connection rather than passively just hanging out, because I really feel like when you are building memories with someone in activities, you both are experiencing something for the first time, and there is something so intimate in that versus if you guys are both just on your phones passively hanging out. That's definitely something that I want to bring into summer 2025, and just trying new things and experiencing new things and not just rotting away in my apartment on my phone, because that is not building any memories, and that's definitely not going to make my 80-year-old self look back and say, summer of 2025 when I couldn't stop scrolling. No, I'm not going to be thinking about that. Number 2 is grounding exercises, verbal affirmations, and gratitude in the moment. This is something that I have been doing that to me makes me feel very present, but I also am curious to what you think about this. Something that I've realized that I've done is that whenever I'm out and about, say I'm at the park, I'm reading a book, I'm enjoying my afternoon, and everything around me is so beautiful, I really like to name things out loud because I feel like it solidifies the experience around me. So if I'm at the park and I'm looking around, I'm like, wow, the sky is so blue. The trees are so green. I love the way the trees move with the wind. Look at the beautiful water and it just ripples by. I feel like when I name things out loud, it like doubles the experience for me. It's like not just am I looking at how beautiful and green this grass is, but the fact that I'm saying it makes me like aware of how green it is. And then the people around me are like, you know what? You're right. It is so green. To me, I love doing that because I feel like it really grounds me in the present moment. And in fact, I think when people have like anxious moments, a big technique for them is to like name 5 things that they can touch, or name 5 things they can see, or name 5 things that are in proximity to them. So like, I do think it is a grounding exercise. But the other day I was reading this book. I think it was Untethered Soul. I don't know. I was reading a different book and it was saying that you shouldn't name things out loud because that is your mind's eye trying to make sense out of the physical world. And it's like trying to like you're trying to say it out loud, and you shouldn't just say that because you should just be there and not think about it, but just be there and just experience it without thinking about it. Which I also understand because like you don't need to be in your head. You should just like be there and experience it. But I say this point now because I'm curious to what you think. Do you think that if you are in a wonderful scenario, do you just experience it and not say anything and just absorb it and just look around and just be in it? Or do you like to verbalize it out loud and to kind of affirm it into existence? I'm very curious because I personally don't feel like either one is wrong. I feel like if you are, for example, an artist or a painter, or you have a creative eye, or you're a photographer, you would name these things out loud because you're turning these things into life, not just saying them for the sake of saying them or because you're in your head, but you're saying it to make the moment more beautiful than it is. But anyways, sorry, that was a side tangent. I'm really curious about that. But for me, it does make me feel more present to name things out loud, to affirm them, to notice the details around me, even if you don't say them out loud, but just to notice them and to notice the intricate things that are around you. Sensations. I always talk about senses on my podcast, but like say you are in the park, like how does everything feel? How does the grass feel under you? How does the wind feel on your skin? How blue is the sky? How are the clouds looking? How's the water looking? What are the people around you doing? Does it smell a certain way? Does it sound a certain way? Is there music playing? What are the sounds around you? Personally, that makes me feel very present. Like I'm very in the moment. Like I'm not numb or distracted or just have a fuzzy lens on my eyes. I really feel like I'm seeing everything with clarity. The next thing I had written down for how I've been more present in 2025 is by reflecting instead of just going. Or as I had written down, go, go, go. So taking the time to think about the experience and the lessons. Now, first, when I say this, it kind of sounds like the previous example that I just said. Should you be thinking about your experiences or just living them? Does reflecting take away from being in the moment? What do you think? I found online here that when done intentionally, reflection deepens presence. It lets you integrate experiences rather than rushing past them. It acknowledges sensations, emotions, and patterns, things that might go unnoticed if not reflected on. You can cultivate self-awareness that makes future moments feel more embodied, and it tunes you into a slower rhythm where you can actually feel life instead of speed running it. These ideas definitely align with my perspective and is the reason why I love reflecting, because I do feel like it allows me to experience things in the future a lot deeper than when I'm just going and not even thinking about what's going on. I feel like last year that happened to me where I was just doing so many things and I didn't give myself the time to think about it, that when I finally gave myself the chance to think and reflect and just like the space to just be, I was like combusting in my brain because I was like, oh my God, I don't even know how to process this. So definitely taking time to reflect after experiences that are a lot, I feel like definitely allow me to show up more present day to day. Another thing you can do is practice mindfulness techniques such as meditation, yoga, breath work, sound baths, or even just being in stillness. I love doing yoga every single morning, and sometimes it's not even yoga, it's more just like embodied movement, or you could even say a little bit of like calisthenics, I think is how you say the word, or just like stretching. I have my yoga mat pulled out and I always just go there on the morning and do some stretches and just kind of be, and I feel like it really allows me to be in the moment, feel my body, stretch my body, and just like take some time for myself. Meditation also obviously works great for this. I feel like when you meditate consistently, then you are able to kind of quiet your thoughts and just kind of be in stillness and not constantly be distracted or thinking about what's next. I don't personally do that many sound baths, but I know one of my friends loves doing cold and hot therapy, and it's really great for her and it helps her with calming down any anxiety or overwhelming thoughts, and overall just allows her to be more present and clear-headed. I also feel like a sauna can kind of apply to this as well. I feel like when I'm using the sauna often and I'm just in there and being like quiet and just like enjoying the moment, I feel very in my own body and not overthinking. Another thing that has allowed me to be more present in 2025 or has influenced my want for presence is intaking content that promotes presence or romanticizes presence. This can be through social media by following accounts that kind of romanticize slow living or, you know, just romanticize presence in general, or like yoga or things like that. But also even reading books that kind of have these themes. A book that was recently recommended to me that I have not read, but I know is supposed to be so good is called Stillness is the Key. I think the author is named Ryan Holiday, and that book is supposed to be really good. There's also The Power of Now, which is another great book that is on mindfulness and being in the moment. Also, like I said earlier, I'm reading the book Untethered Soul, and I do feel like that's another great book that kind of talks about like consciousness and being present and being embodied. So I definitely think that reading this type of content allows you to like think about these things more often and just like be more aware of these themes. The next thing is eliminating unnecessary distractions, such as your phone. Sometimes it can be even overstimulating music, which to some people is a great thing, which I personally love, but again, it can be really distracting. Also just like unnecessary drama or toxic friends or toxic dynamics, toxic relationships. If you do have the option to get out of those situations, I definitely feel like it will rid your mind from all that clutter. Another tip that people always recommend is to avoid multitasking so that you can actually be present in whatever task you're doing and not kind of absent-minded and like splitting your attention in multiple ways. I know for myself, I definitely need to work on limiting screen time and detaching from my phone because it actually takes up so much of your time, and it's hard to like enjoy the present moment or enjoy your day or make the most out of your day when you're constantly online and scrolling, because these apps are designed to hold your attention and it is actually so hard to detach from it. I feel like my eyes are glued to it, especially if I wake up in the morning and the first thing I do is scroll. The rest of the day I am cooked. I am chasing that cheap dopamine, that quick dopamine, versus when you start off the day doing like some hard task, or it doesn't even need to be a hard task, but like doing the dishes or doing your bed kind of sets you up for a better tone to be less distracted throughout the day. Another thing that you can do is allow yourself to feel boredom. This kind of pushes you to use your imagination and to think about creative ways to spend your time. Again, it kind of goes back to why you should spend a little bit less time on your phone. But yesterday I was kind of thinking about this, where I was on Pinterest and I was looking at a bunch of like arts and crafts projects, and I was like overwhelmed by looking at how many cute things it's possible to make. I was like, oh my God, I want to make these cards. I want to make these little clay trinkets. I want to like make this art for my wall. And then I'm like, okay, girl, like I'm literally like anxious, panicky, looking at all this different inspiration. And I think that the answer is like, you have all the inspiration, you have all the creativity within you. You just need space away from your phone, which is the most distracting thing, or like unnecessary distractions, to give yourself time to create and not just consume. When you give yourself the time, you actually have the time to integrate all the inspiration that has been given to you, or the lessons that you have learned, or the experiences that you've recently just gone through, and use that as like raw material to create something out of it. I think a lot of times people romanticize like when they were kids or when they were younger, and they're like, nothing feels the same anymore. Like the sun shining through the trees when I was younger was like so magical, and I never see it like that. And like the only difference is that when you were younger, you probably were just like more quote unquote bored, and you had the time and space to like look around you and be present and use your imagination to fill up the time. I feel like another example of this is like when I think about, I don't know why this came up, but in recent times, I'm like, I swear I haven't seen a snail in so long. I used to see them all the time when I was younger, and it's like, yeah, when I was younger, I was like probably bored outside, playing in the grass, paying attention to my surroundings, looking at the places that nowadays I may overlook, and they were so easy to find. And nowadays it's like, I'm not really going on that many walks. And even when I am on a walk, sometimes I'm listening to music, sometimes I'm on my phone. I'm not really paying attention to my surroundings. The next way that I have been more present is by allowing myself to do things without the need to document them. Let it be for you is what I had written down. Now, as a social media content creator girly, as a YouTuber, as a, you could say TikToker, Instagram person, Snapchat person, like all of the social medias, I always and constantly feel the pressure to post whatever I'm doing. That is my job. And because I've done it for so long now and since such a young age, it almost feels like second nature to me. But I often remember when I was younger, I felt like for a long time, I was doing things to document them. It wasn't necessarily that I was doing things and then I decided to document them, although now that is more the case. At the time, I was doing things in order to document them, to create content for the people, to give the people what they wanted to see. And whenever I did something for me that wasn't on video or wasn't photographed, I felt like I was like wasting my time. I'm like, if this isn't going anywhere, then what is the point of it? But I have learned that it is okay to keep some things for you, and it is okay to enjoy the moment for how it is, and not everything needs to be documented, and not everything needs to be like even monetized, for example. A little bit over a week ago, I went to the Scandinavian spa. It was such a relaxing experience, and I did not take a single photo all day long, and I didn't even notice until I got home, and I'm like, what the hell? I didn't take any photos. And though I'm kind of upset that I didn't create any content out of it, I can't even be mad at myself because I was so present in the moment. In fact, at the spa, they don't even allow you to pull your phone out. So I was fully there, and what felt like hours at the spa wasn't actually even hours. It was like, I think it was like 4 hours, which could be a long time, but I felt like I was there for like 10 hours. But I think it was genuinely because I just was not on my phone, and I was like there in the moment, and I wasn't distracted or trying to think of a way to make content out of it. I was just there, and I was just being. So that's just a little reminder for you. Another thing I personally like to do is journal to get any gunk out of my brain, so that I do not ruminate or overthink or overanalyze or over-intellectualize situation. You know, I give myself time to put it all on paper, and then after that, I feel a lot more clear-minded. I think something that helps me when I begin to over-intellectualize or ruminate on thoughts is to remind myself that I am not my thoughts, I am just the witness, and there's only so much I can do. Some things have to play out, and you cannot control it just by overthinking the situation or over-analyzing or intellectualizing it. I also wrote down here to just appreciate the simple things and just overall have some daily quiet time to just be grateful and practice gratitude. This always helps bring me into the present moment and not feel like I need something more that is outside of me. I simply already have enough with what's around me. I also wrote down mindful movement and working out, such as yoga or walking or any sort of fitness, but I feel like I kind of touched on that earlier as well. But overall, whenever I am doing mindful movement, I feel very present. I feel very in the moment. There was a quote by Eckhart Tolle that says, it's not about being present longer, but being present more often, even for just a second. And I feel like that is such a good quote to remember and come back to, because it is very hard to be in the present moment and not leave it. It is inevitable that you end up getting distracted. But if you're aware and conscious that you are getting distracted, then you can quickly come back to center. And even in times of distress and chaos, even if it's just a second, it is better than nothing. And if you can regroup often and quickly, then that is better than not being present at all. Another tip that I saw online was to use objects as presence portals. For example, you could have a ring that brings you back to yourself whenever you see it. For example, this could be like a ring that every time you look at it, it reminds you to be present with yourself. I also imagine this as if like you had a tattoo that said something about presence. It would be like every time you look at it, it reminds you to go back to yourself. But of course, this doesn't have to be a tattoo. It could be a ring. It could be a necklace. It could be something that every time you touch, it reminds you. You could even program it yourself and say like every time you see a bird or something, I don't don't know, you go back to your own center or take like deep breaths or something. This is called a tactile anchor. And then another technique was every night doing something called trace your day, which is something that I feel like I've been doing for a long time now. But every night before you go to bed, just recapping what happened during the day. You could tell yourself what your favorite highlights were, or what was the best part of your day, what was the worst part of your day. I feel like that is what's so great about journaling, and a lot of guided journals that you do daily and nightly. They usually do something like this, or ask you questions about what the best part of your day was, what could have gone better, if there was someone that made you smile. Just kind of going through those questions and answering them yourself allows you to trace back everything that happened during that day. And I feel like if you do this every single night, first of all, it reminds you to stay present in the moment because you have to reflect on it later. But also when you are reflecting on it later, I feel like it like solidifies your memories and the days don't just pass. Another thing I wanted to talk about is being present in conversations, because that is something that I feel like is really important and we need more of. Honestly, if more people were present with others, I feel like everyone would feel a lot more seen. The conversations would be a lot more open. Trust can be formed, as well as I feel like just people feel heard, and you're able to actually remember the conversation and build a better relationship with that other person. I feel like I've definitely had conversations with people where I feel like I'm talking to them and they're not quite there. And that is not something necessarily to blame them. They might have something going on, but I've definitely done that before as well, where someone's talking to me and I'm not fully there. And it doesn't really feel great for either parties. You don't really remember the conversation. They feel like they're not heard or you're not listening. And the difference between that and being with someone that really listens to you and really understands and really hears you feels like night and day. So I wanted to say some tips for being present in conversation. Something that you can do in conversation is practicing stillness. I had written down in my journal that stillness sharpens perception. If you need to pause before responding, that is actually a lot better than just responding and not quite catching what that other person was putting down. You can give the other person's words a second to land before you speak. Also, when you are listening and you are trying to be a better listener, listening with your full body and your full attention, having your eyes on them, having your body language faced towards them, having your phone turned off or turned upside down. Overall, just not planning your next sentence. Another thing that I feel like is a very common piece of advice in conversation that people often give out is that it is okay if you actually say less and mean more. Although I have kind of a mixed opinion on this because I personally really like to process ideas out loud, and I feel like it's kind of fun to dismantle a thought with someone else, but I also understand how a lot of words can kind of feel like fluff or you're trying to fill up the space, and sometimes silence is enough. Sometimes silence is what the other person needs as well, and you don't need to fill the conversation with just like pointless words. If you could say the same thing with more impact and less words. And a reminder that I found online here is that true presence is felt, not performed. You do not need to be someone with presence. You need to be somewhere fully. And I feel like that is something that I have really tried to embody recently. Just reminding myself that if I'm in conversation with someone, I'm here. I'm not thinking about somewhere else. I'm not thinking about what I did yesterday. I'm not thinking about what I'm doing tomorrow. I'm literally right here. This is the only moment that matters to me. And honestly, sometimes I feel like when I'm really with the person and we're going back and forth in conversation, it almost feels like you're in flow state because you're not even thinking or calculating anything else. You're just with that person. It's quite a beautiful feeling, honestly, when you guys like sync up. Even I feel like in like energies, it feels like you guys are just like on the same wavelength. Not only does that make the other person feel so seen and heard, but it does make you, I feel like, magnetic, which is just side note, but like a good skill to have in conversations or in social settings or when you are working on your own social confidence. Anyways, you guys, those are all the things that I had written down in my notebook. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope that you learned something new or even just got a reminder from something that you already knew. It's funny that I'm making a whole episode on presence because in reality, presence is doing nothing but just being here. But in a world that is filled with distractions, I feel like it is often overlooked or forgotten, or it's easy to forget about it yourself. So I hope that this reminds you to be more present with yourself, to enjoy every day a little bit more, to be more in the moment, to get out of your head and into your body, and to really be with the people around you and give them your full attention when you are with each other one-on-one. I feel like we are now at a time where everybody's so lonely these days, and sometimes we feel lonely in the presence of other people. And if we can be present for other people, and hopefully it's a chain reaction and they can be present with us, I feel like everybody can feel like the social time they're having is worth a lot more. And it's not just like empty socialization time where you end up feeling alone after the situation has happened or the hangout has happened, but rather when you're seeing someone else and when you're conversing with someone else, it does fill your cup and you do feel fulfilled and you do feel seen and you do feel heard and you leave feeling better than you entered that space. And if we can do that for just one person, I'm telling you guys, it's a chain reaction. We'd be all a lot happier. We'd all feel a lot more connected and, hopefully help that feeling of loneliness that a lot of us feel, because I've definitely felt that myself when you finish hanging out with a bunch of people and you're just like, why do I still feel alone? So anyways, hopefully you enjoyed that. And yeah, I'm going to end the episode off here. If you stayed till the very end, thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you so much. I love you. Make sure to check out all my socials, and yeah.